Welcome back to the Rebel Daily Drive. I'm your host, Mike Cooper, and we're back after a 5-day break in between shows. Um, on tonight's show, we'll recap Boise State UNLV. We'll look ahead a little bit to UNLV and Colorado State. I'll go into detail about my Mountain West power rankings and where I updated them from the last time I posted. Then we'll dive in a little bit to where realistically and what realistically can UNLV finish in the Mountain West. Um, and then we're going to dive into a little bit of Sac State talk, potentially my new favorite rivalry in the Ball Sacks game. That's besides the point. We're going to talk about a little bit that Brennan Marion jumped the gun with Sac State, leaving to go to Colorado to go to the MAC. And then we'll talk about Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn winning Mountain West Player of the Week for the second time this season, and dive into what the all-conference talk looks like, because I know that's been a hot debate on Twitter right now, and who's going to win Player of the Year. But first, before we dive into anything, I want to share this gem. Shout out to Steve Cofield for getting this gem. This was absolutely great content from Steve.
Kamani made some big-time plays. Tyron Jones made some big-time plays. Walter Brown made some big-time plays. Isaac William made some big-time plays. I thought Howie Fleming made some big plays early when he was in there, 4 assists. I thought Jacob settled us down. Him and Emmanuel gave us good minutes, but Jacob did some really good things for us when he was in there. And everybody contributed that played and was really good, and really proud of the guys. Great win for the Rebels. Great win for our young men. Great win for the United States of America. Land of the free because of the brave. God bless the United States. Winning is hard. If I could hug a win, literally I would hug a win. It's such a fine line in sports. And God bless UNLV and God bless the United States of America.
That has to be the gem quote of the year. Shout out to Cofield for getting that quote. By far, the gem quote of the season. Let's pull up the final book as we talk about this. Hold on one second. Let me pull that up. As mentioned, sorry, we're gonna get into it. We're starting obviously with the Boise State UNLV chaotic finish. For more than 40 minutes, UNLV was chasing this game. Not just the scoreboard, the rhythm, the spacing, the pace, the feel of the game. At one point it was 32-9 Boise State. Inside my Extra Mile Arena, knowing how Boise State is and that environment is, just felt one of those nights that Boise. It felt like the Wyoming game all over again. One of those nights that's just going to get away from you. Boise came out sharp. They looked organized. They were downhill early. Drew Felder really played well. He stepped out. His some shots. Shot best he shot all season from 3. He hit 5 of them overall. Javon Buchanan, who did not play in the first game, played really well. He had some really tough finishes in transition. He did finish 2 for 10, but he made an impact on both sides of the floor. He finished with 9 points overall. Boise shot 50% in the first half. UNLV shot 35.7% in the first half. They had just 6 points in the paint in the first half. That's not sustainable, but somehow at the break, they were only trailing 40-29. The game was still in Boise's control. Every run UNLV made, Boise had an answer for. The game was being played at Boise's pace. But something clicked in the second half. They made runs. Boise answered runs. UNLV cut it to 7, went back to 17, cut it to 15, or cut it to 5, went back to 15. But ball moved a lot better. There wasn't over dribbling. Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn, played his best game, arguably of his career. UNLV ended up shooting 57.6% in the second half and 54.5% from 3. They only had 3 turnovers in the final 20 minutes of regulation. And like I just mentioned, Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn changed the game. 36 points, 13 of 22 shooting, 6 3-pointers, did not miss a free throw. He was a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. He had 25 second half points, played all 45 minutes. He outscored Boise 22-19 by himself from the final 11-12 of regulation on. His three was arguably the biggest three of the season for UNLV that tied the game at 77 with 38 seconds to go. Boise led this game for 40 minutes and 29 seconds. UNLV did not take their first lead until the middle of overtime. They only led for a total of 2 minutes and 12 seconds for this game. It's with 8:55 to go. This game was 64-47 Boise State. Boise didn't make a field goal for the final 4:42 of overtime. They hit their first couple, and that was it. All their points came from the free throw line. So UNLV really took control of this game down the stretch. I've not seen a takeover like that by a Rebel player since Bryce Hamilton took over. For those who may not remember, go back and look at the 21-22 UNLV team, the Bryce Hamilton game where he scored 42 at Colorado State. That was the last time I'd seen a game like this. He basically put the team on his shoulders. There was a lot of debate, a lot of talk about, Boise State shot 50% from the field. They shot 47% from three. How did they not win this game? Well, when you look at how UNLV shot, they shot like shit in the first half. That's pretty clear, 35%. But then when they turned it on, they ended up shooting, overall, they ended up shooting 47.8% from the field, 48% from three, which is actually right on par. They shot better from three. They shot better. They shot a little bit worse from two. They hit two more threes. That was, really the difference. They got to the rim. They took 14 more shots than Boise State did. They were able to capitalize on the 11 offensive rebounds to 7 to Boise State. Having Tyron Jones back was there's the argument of why he should be Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. They're probably going to give it to the kid from Grand Canyon, but Tyron Jones, he's also probably not going to win Freshman of the Year. That's going to go to Jake Hall from New Mexico, who's having an outstanding season. But Tyron Jones showed what UNLV missed from him. The plus minus of 13 when he was on the floor. He's made an absolute impact. The blocks down the stretch, the dunks down the stretch. It's been the 2 games that he's been back now that he's made an ultimate, impact. I just don't think people give Pastner enough credit for what he's done. This team has struggled. This team has had its ups and downs. This team has had its really bad losses and some really great wins. But if we flip real quick to look at KenPom, and KenPom has them finishing at 10-10, which we'll get into what the realistic finishes looks like. If we go back, Kruger's team last year finished 11-9 in conference play. The year before that was 12-6. I don't know if this team probably is not hitting, they're not getting to that point. But at the end of the day, he's had these injury problems. They have, UNLV has become a legacy school for these smaller guards who are, if it was before NIL, Bryce Hamilton would have been gone at a big school. Dre's probably going to go to a big school next year. People need to give Pastner the credit where it's due. He's made adjustments. He's made, this team could have spiraled after the Wyoming game. This team could have spiraled after the New Mexico game. They've had some good wins. They've had some bad losses. They're sitting at 8-6 in league play. If they were to finish where the standings are right now, even with Miles Shea and Laji Dembele, this team was picked 6th in the Mountain West. Give Pastner the flowers that he deserves. He gets this team to finish 5th without 2 starters, and you played most of the season without 2 starters, with a lot of injury problems. At one point, you're down 4 preseason starters, missing Tyron here and there. Howie has been hurt the last couple games, but he's been a huge impact. You missed Jacob for a few games. You missed Stefan for the first month and a half of the season. They were still picked 6th. And if they finish 5th or 4th, if they make a run, that exceeds the expectation of what they were picked in the non-con in the preseason by the media. So you got to look at it in that perspective. What he has been able to do with everything that has come around to this team, you got to give credit where credit's due. People may not like him. People may have their opinions on him. People may think he's too rah rah. People may think whatever they want to think. But at the end of the day, this team is where it is because of Pastner and because of Gibbs-Lawhorn. Um, you know, he's made this team. Pastner's made the quotes. This team has grown. This team is this. This team is that, and you can see the growth from San Jose, the resilient. After Fresno, this could have spiraled. They could have got their. I personally thought they were going to get blown out by Grand Canyon, and they won that game. They won again. Once put together strung another win against San Jose. Now they're at 3 in a row. Can they continue to build momentum down the stretch here and strive to get these wins, to maybe push them at 10 wins, 11 wins in conference play? I don't think that's unrealistic at this point. And it kind of leads me into our next topic, which is we're going to dive in a little bit to the rematch with Colorado State. Colorado State comes to Thompson Mack on Wednesday night. Tip-off is at 8 p.m., another late night tip. They played back in January. This was right after the thrashing at Wyoming. This is where Pastner tested them originally to see what kind of resiliency this team had. UNLV controlled this game for long stretches. They led for almost 20 minutes. They led for 19:55 of this game. They shot well enough to win. I mean, they shot 40%, which is, good enough to win most games. But they went 15 for 25 at the free throw line. They missed 10 free throws. They were 11 for 18 in the second half when they had a majority of their lead in the second half. They couldn't convert from the free throw line. They turned it over 16 times in 63 possessions that they had the ball, and they missed 12 layups in this game. This is when they went through that stretch where they could not finish anything. They had empty possessions down the stretch. You didn't get the best game from Dre. Dre was 4 out of 9, 13 points. You got a good game off the bench. This is the game where UNLV got down 9-0 off the bat, and Pastner pulled all 5 starters out, made a line change substitution, and that group led by Al Green and Jacob Darby and Isaac Williamson got them back into the game, and UNLV kind of led from there. But they ended up losing the game 70-62. They couldn't close out the game under control. They turned the ball over too much down the stretch. Now the real question is, they've won 3 in a row. They have the momentum. Can they finish these? They've improved the last 2 games. Well, 2 of the last 3 games. They almost blew Grand Canyon, but ended up holding on. They stormed back against Boise, held on to win that game in overtime. Can they continue to finish these games in the possessions at home? That's going to be the big question. Colorado State comes in sitting at 6-8 in league play. They've won 3 straight. They can shoot it. In the first meeting, they shot 9 for 21 from 3. That's about 40, almost 4, basically 43%. They outshot UNLV 30-25 at the free throw line. So they can shoot it. They spaced the floor. Kerry Booth had 13. They had four guys in double figures, 1 guy with 9. So they have very balanced scoring, and that kind of killed UNLV in this matchup. If we go to KenPom, KenPom has UNLV winning this game 77-76, which they think it's going to be another tight, contested, down-the-wire game, which UNLV fans have become accustomed to the last couple weeks. And we'll see how they handle this one, honestly. And then if we look in conference play, UNLV has the 5th fastest pace in the conference. Colorado State plays at one of the lowest paces in the conference. They turn the ball over the 11th worst in the conference, 11 out of 12. So that's even worse. That's in the tier of Air Force and San Jose. So if you can turn this team over, UNLV is right in the middle, about 17% about turning teams over. So if you can get them to play at their 20% turnover rate, UNLV is going to get a lot of extra possessions in this game. Colorado State teams weirdly shoot the worst free throw percentage against them in the conference. 69%. UNLV is that's been their problem all season. Yeah, they're not going to kill you. They do shoot a lot of threes. They shoot 35% of their points come from the three, which is about middle in the conference. They shoot about 47 field goal attempts a game. Yeah, like I mentioned, 37% of their points come from three. So, that's the second highest rate in the conference. So it's going to be interesting to see. UNLV is Colorado's also second best in 3-point percent defense in the conference. So it's going to be interesting. Teams don't really, from it looks like teams don't shoot well against Colorado State, at least not recently. So it's going to be very interesting to see how UNLV matches up in this game. Obviously, this is a very different UNLV team than it was in January. You have guys who've kind of defined their roles. Obviously, Kamani is going to be the X factor to me in this game. If Kamani was in foul trouble, Kamani stayed out of foul trouble against Boise. Ironically, the whole team stayed out of foul trouble against Boise State. They only had one person with 4, and that was Walter Brown. Besides for that, you only had one guy with 3, and that was Kamani. Everybody played. They had 16 team fouls for the game, so when they did foul, they put Boise on the line. Which Boise was 21 out of 23 from the free throw line, which is, obviously very good. But they didn't have the cheapy fouls. If we go back and we look at the Colorado State game the first time, UNLV had 26 team fouls. You had Kamani foul out, Stephen fouled out, Bernarby fouled out, Dre and Howie each had 4. So this was kind of, when you have basically, you already had 3 key role players foul out. Dre was in foul trouble. He played 35 minutes, but he played with fouls all night. Howie played in foul trouble all night. So it's kind of going to be interesting to see how this matchup goes. You're going to need contributions like you got the first time, I think, to win this game. You're going to need a good game from Isaac, who had 14 against him the first meeting. And probably you're going to need some contributions from Al Green. Bernarby played 18 minutes, had 5 points, 9 rebounds, and fouled out. So you're going to need some good minutes from Bernarby as well. This team just plays better when Stephen is not on the floor, especially recently. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that's going to be a good question for Josh tomorrow when he does his presser, which I will stream once I record it. If they're going to make lineup tweaks, knowing that they need Stephen, but their offense has just looked a lot better and flowed a lot better with Stephen off the floor. They're getting a lot more back cuts. They're getting a lot more open threes. You're getting a lot more penetration lanes for Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn, which, when Dre has 36 on 22 shots and he made 13 of them and he's getting open looks, he's the best player in the league, and it's not really close. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, even if you look at the contributions against Boise State, Tyron played 37 minutes off the bench. He'll probably start, I would assume, in Stephen's place on Wednesday. You got 13 from Kamani. You got 9 from Bernarby. You got some big shots from Walter Brown. Isaac had a huge 3 in overtime. Howie did score in 16 minutes. So you're going to get a better game from Howie Fleming. He had 4 assists, no turnovers. They had 12 assists, 8 turnovers, which is not that bad. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this kind of game breaks out and what this kind of looks like. Obviously, I'm going to post my pregame article tomorrow. Please read. I put a lot of good content and hard work into my articles. I'll try to – I know they've been a little too long lately, so I'll try to cut them down. But it's really good content, really informative for Rebel fans and anybody who wants to know what's going on in the Mountain West. So, but yeah, kind of dives into our next point – which brings us to Dre. Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn was named Mountain West Player of the Week. Dre averaged 30 points per game over the 2 games this week, which were both wins over San Jose State and Boise State. He was 23 for 41 from the field, 10 of 20 from 3. Dre has played outstanding. He's had 7 20-point games in his last 8 outings, 21, 27. Then he had an 8-point game, 26, 28, 29, 24, and 36. He's the league's leading scorer in conference play at 19.4 points per game. He's also top 5 in field goal percentage at 49.9%. He's shooting 82% from the free throw line. He's playing 33 minutes a night, but that's kind of misleading because he's basically been Pastner hasn't been able to take him off the floor the last couple weeks. He's been absolutely outstanding for UNLV, and this season's going to really hinge on how well he can play. They're going to need Kamani. They're going to need Tyron. He's going to need a number 2 down the stretch, especially when you get into the Mountain West tournament. But congrats to Dre for winning his second Mountain West Player of the Week, which kind of leads me into the next conversation I want to talk about, which let me reshare this, is like I mentioned, there's Dre sitting at the top, 19.4 points a game, right above Kobe Garland, who we saw as a great player. Then you have MJ Collins from Utah State. He's their leading scorer. And then Corey Camper, who obviously he torched UNLV the first time those two teams played. Which kind of leads us into the point of the next topic. Obviously, I got tagged in a few posts about this. I retweeted a poll that a Utah State page put up. Who should win Mountain West Player of the Year? Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Let me find it real fast. I was tagged in it, if I remember right. Show this. This was the poll I was tagged in by Brady Clark. He has 2 Utah State players in there, and MJ Collins, who's the third leading scorer in the conference behind Dre, and Mason Falslev, who's obviously Utah State's best player. 234 votes, 62% say Falslev. Dre's right behind him at 19.2%. But this brings up the interesting conversation. People are surprised Dre made the list. Falslev, Camper, Reese Dixon Waters has been San Diego State's best player. But it's very interesting to see right now, in my opinion, if I were to pick a Mountain West Player of the Year, it's going to Falslev, in my opinion. Falslev is on a Utah State team that's, if they, is probably going to finish number 1 or number 2 in the Mountain West. They're 12-2 in conference play. He's shooting 53.5% from the field. He's the top of the league at steals at 2.1. This is where it gets interesting. In my opinion, if UNLV finishes 6th or 7th, Dre probably will not win this award. If he drags them into the top 4, which realistically is they're 1 back of 3rd, 1 back of 4th. So if they can steal wins against Reno the second time, Grand Canyon the second time, and he drags them into the top 4, I don't know how you don't give it to him. Yes, there's going to be the argument of analytics and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But if you go into the argument of who is the most valuable player to their team, what would UNLV look like without Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn? Especially without Miles Shea and Logi. What would this UNLV might be sitting down here with Wyoming, San Jose State, and Air Force without Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn and what he's been able to do the last couple weeks. So that's where my argument comes in. He's your conference leading scorer. If he can drag UNLV into a 4th place or 5th place finish, which is realistically, like I mentioned at the beginning, better than what they were predicted in the offseason by the media back on Media Day, then that's how I think Dre wins Mountain West Player of the Year. But if he can't, and they finish 5th or they finish 6th or 7th, they finish somewhere where they are right now, even if they fall to 8th, then he probably won't win it. He'll probably get first team all conference, but he won't win it. But that kind of leads into the argument. What is the criteria that these media members are looking at? Where would these teams be without certain players? Falslev leaves Utah State, but they still have Carson Templin, MJ Collins. They have a good, solid foundation team around MJ Collins or Falslev, really. But if you remove Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn from UNLV, you remove the big, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, Bulan from New Mexico. Where is that team at? Like, there's a lot. Grand Canyon is built very well, so they're very balanced scoring. With Jaden Henley and mainly Jaden Henley and Nunu Asawuni, the defense player who I think is going to win Defense Player of the Year, should go to Tyron Jones, but Tyron Jones has missed too many conference games. They won't give it to him. Obviously, you look at Boise State, too. They're balanced. San Diego State doesn't have a lot of superstars. You could argue Corey Camper is in the same type of thing, but you have Elijah Price there as well. So it kind of pulls the argument, where would you put Dre? What is the value of that award? And where realistically do you put these teams? And if we're valuing who is the most valuable player to the team, and it's a individual award, it should go to Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn if he's able to drag UNLV into the top 4 or top 5, really, because you beat expectations, you put up good numbers, and that's kind of the realistic sense of it. UNLV would not be where they're at today without Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn. You can argue these other schools would be. But if we're going to go into the other awards right now, I would probably give Coach of the Year to Eric Olin for what he's done and how he's built the New Mexico program to carry on what Patino has done. Granted, you could argue Passner if Passner drags them into the top 4 and they win 12 conference games. But right now, I think it's out of the question that it's going to Eric Olin. Freshman of the Year, that's pretty much locked up. That's going to Jake Hall at New Mexico. 44% from 3. He's been arguably their best player this year. 78 made threes, which is a Mountain West Conference record, let alone a freshman record. I would give Newcomer of the Year to MJ Collins at actually, I think you may see a co-Newcomer of the Year. I was going to say I would give it to MJ Collins at Utah State, but if you have Dre, if you're going to put Dre in this conversation, if Dre wins Mountain West Player of the Year, he's going to win Newcomer of the Year because he is a newcomer in the conference. So I think even if he doesn't win Player of the Year, depending on where UNLV finishes, you could see a co-Newcomer of the Year between MJ Collins and Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn. Defense Player of the Year going to Nana Anasue and Anani from Grand Canyon. Almost 9 rebounds a game, 6 defense boards a night, block a night. He's very versatile. I think that's kind of the right way to go there, which leads into where I would put my first team all Mountain West right now. Obviously, Nana, Jake Hall, I would put at first team all conference. Bulan for New Mexico. And I would put Falslev on the first team with Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn. Second team, I would do MJ Collins, Heidenbreder from Fresno, Jaden Henley from Grand Canyon, Reese Dixon Waters from San Diego State, and Corey Camper. You can argue those last two and Collins really for anybody in this top 5. There's a good solid top 10 of players in this conference. That's kind of where I would put these guys right now. Kind of leads into what I want to talk about next is my power rankings. A lot of you saw me post them earlier today. I think it's pretty clear looking at the Mountain West standings where they are, where teams are right now, kind of where people stand. I think you have 2 obviously legit regular season and conference tournament title contenders in San Diego State and Utah State. It's pretty hard to argue. They're both 12-2 in league. Even if one of them doesn't win the Mountain West tournament, they may still get in at large teams. So I think those 2 are probably obviously your legit title contenders to me. I think then you have outside title contenders looking in. That's kind of where I'm going to put the class of Reno and New Mexico. New Mexico has a very tough schedule remaining, as do Utah State and San Diego State. So does Reno as well. There's a lot of good conference games left. But I think that if there's going to be any of these teams that could win the conference tournament. I think any of those four are very legit title contenders, but I would still put question marks on New Mexico and Reno. Kind of goes into my next tier. I don't think they'll win the league. They're not going to win the regular season. I don't think they win the conference tournament either, but they've had a very, very good first year in the Mountain West, and that's Grand Canyon. There's a lot of question marks about this team. It's kind of the same of what you could say about UNLV and Boise State of which version of Grand Canyon are you going to get on any given night. You're going to get, some really good where they're going to play Utah State tough. They're going to play, San Diego State tough. Then you're going to get the clunkers like they did against New Mexico, where they did storm back in that game, take the lead in the second half, but weren't able to close it out. And then you had the clunker. You can argue against UNLV, which was the same thing. UNLV was up big. Grand Canyon came storming back, couldn't finish, couldn't overcome that. So it's going to be very interesting. Then my tier of can one player carry a team? And that's UNLV. Can Dra Gibbs-Lawhorn, and maybe get some help, really, carry UNLV to play 4 games in 4 days, win 3 games in 3 days? What kind of team is going to help him? And where are we going to go? And it's kind of the same thing right here. Which version of UNLV is going to show up? Are you going to get Wyoming and they can't hold on against San Diego State, get blown out on your home floor by New Mexico? Or are you going to get the team that's shown up for the last basically 2 weeks after the Fresno collapse of beat Grand Canyon, beat San Jose, storm back to beat Boise? Which UNLV team is going to show up, one, the rest of this season, and two, which UNLV team is going to show up in the Mountain West tournament? Is it going to be a team that can get hot and win 4 games in 4 days? Can Dre go on this heater in the Mountain West tournament when the refs are very much tighter? When there's a lot of different elements being a conference tournament game. Can UNLV be a bid stealer? Ironically, I don't know. I think that kind of plays into the same tier as Boise State. Oh, Jesus Christ. which who knows what team will show up? Boise State can be one of those teams where, the 7 plays to 10 and they get Wyoming and they get a good matchup against Utah State or San Diego State, and they could beat them in the second round and get favorable matchups all the way through. Not favorable, but matchups that get through. It's the same thing with UNLV. Can they get past that first game? Can they snap the streak since 2014 of not getting past that first game in the Mountain West? For those who don't know, UNLV has won the quarterfinal game every year pretty much since 2014 that they've been in it, that they haven't gotten a bye. They have not gotten past that second game since 2014, which is ironically matches their streak of not going to the NCAA tournament since 2013. So they kind of go hand in hand. Can they get past that hurdle of getting over that, however you want to word it, cloud, mental block of that game? If they get a New Mexico, they don't play New Mexico again this season. Is that a better matchup the second time with how well Dre's playing? With Tyron Jones, who got hurt in the first minute of that matchup against New Mexico, the second possession of the game. Is it a better matchup this time? Do they have the bitter taste of getting blown out by 30 in their home gym? So it's going to be very interesting to see which UNLV team shows up, which one doesn't, who leads what, and what the matchups look like. If they get the 5, they get past that first game. Do they match up with Reno? Is it a rivalry game in the Mountain West tournament? Or maybe Grand Canyon sneaks up and takes the 4th spot. Is it UNLV and Grand Canyon? Is it if they're the 6 and UNR goes up to the 3? Is it still, again, a matchup? It's going to be very interesting to see the matchups and how they play out down the stretch here. And obviously, Colorado State, Fresno, Wyoming, I put might steal a game. I don't think they'll steal a game in a conference tournament. They may beat somebody they shouldn't towards the end of the Mountain West regular season. And then, my toilet bowl of Air. No offense to the Air Force Academy, but they are terrible at basketball. And San Jose State. That kind of leads into the next topic of what I was getting at. What is a realistic finish for this UNLV team? Um, as we look and round out their schedule, not putting up what KenPom predicts, not putting up what these other sites predict. Um, what is a realistic finish? They have 6 games to go. Drop your comments. Let me know what you think. But I'm going to go through what I think, and then we'll post and we'll talk about it. Post your comments. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I think they get a good revenge spot here. I think they beat Colorado State at home. That's realistically, if we want to put any two that they should win, that's a realistic. I think that it's Colorado State and Air Force. That puts them sitting at 10-6 in league play. They're at 8-6 right now. That puts them at 10-6. Then you have the 4 gauntlet games to end the season. This one, I don't think they'll win. I think so. I put you at 2-1 down the stretch. I think they can beat Reno the second time. They played horrible the first time. Pastor said that that was an embarrassing loss for UNLV. So if they can get a good bounce back spot on 3 days rest against Reno, that could be a game they can steal. In my opinion, Utah State's going to come to the Thompson Mack with vengeance. In my opinion, I think that game could be ugly. It was ugly up until about 6 minutes ago when UNLV turned it on, where they're down 14 and won that game by 10. They had a 24-point swing. Tyron Jones and the team hit everything from the free throw line. Do we see that again? Is Utah State have that bitter taste in their mouth? Kind of what UNLV. Same thing with Grand Canyon. These games are revenge games for Utah State and Grand Canyon, and UNLV has a bitter taste from what happened against Reno. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. That I don't think they go to Viejas and win. So realistically, I think they finish 3-3 down the stretch. I think they beat Colorado State Air Force, and I think they beat Reno. I think they're going to lose at Grand Canyon, at San Diego State. But here's the thing. This team feeds off of those environments. For whatever reason, they play better on the road. They play better when student sections are coming at their throat. Josh Pastner was getting shit-talked all game long. His players, the bench, were getting shit-talked all game long by Utah State, by Boise State, in Stanford, maybe not Stanford, but Memphis. Those environments, they play better in those environments. So maybe they still won. I don't know, but I think 3-3 realistically down the stretch is probably right where they should be. That puts them at 11-9. I think 11-9. Probably fit. That probably puts you at 5th or 6th. If they go 4-2, that puts you at 12-8. You have I think that you have an outside shot to get 4th or 5th. You're not going into the top 3. Maybe the 3rd spot, but you're not going into top 2. That's for sure. So if they can beat if they can beat Reno, if they can beat Grand Canyon, that boosts them above them. And that puts minimum 6 losses for those 2 schools. So it's going to be interesting to see where they play out, what matches up, and what it realistically looks like. And what seed they get. And it goes back into what kind of run they can make. I'm not really sure at this point what kind of run they realistically can make. But it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, what it kind of looks like, and the matchups they get. I like the matchup if they play Grand Canyon a 3rd time or Reno a 3rd time. But I don't know if they beat San Diego State or Utah State a 3rd time. But they get New Mexico a 2nd time or Reno or Grand Canyon a 3rd time. They could win. I think they could get past the 2nd round. And then when you get past that 2nd game, anything can happen. Anything's on the table. And maybe Rebel fans will show up for the Mountain West tournament, which they haven't really done the last couple of years. So it would be an interesting environment to get a team like that out early and see where it goes from there. Now I want to talk about a kind of a hot topic that's been going on. Sac State to the MAC. That situation's very wild. Sac State is joining the MAC as a football only member starting this season. They're paying $18 million to the MAC, $5 million to the to the NCAA. They're covering all teams' costs to travel to Sacramento. They're taking no conference distribution for 5 seasons. Their reported athletic budget overall is roughly $11 million in total. They're definitely going to face a budget deficit considering this is $23 million by itself. This, I think, is the most wild tweet by a university president I've ever seen. Especially point number 2. Estimated economic impact of $975 million and broadcast value of $675 million. Are you just making shit up? Like, Maction on Tuesday night, okay. CBS Sports and ESPN, okay. The MAC doesn't have better TV revenue deals than the Mountain West or the Pac-12. Also, they don't have it just the MAC's not even close. There's a reason why NIU left. There's a reason probably Toledo is going to go to the Mountain West or leave the MAC. So they don't have a very good TV deal. You're covering all these schools' costs. You think it's going to have an economic impact when that's bullshit, because Sacramento is a decent market. It's not a great market, but it's a decent market. And you think that because you're in the MAC, it's going to boost academics and revenue. I don't think so. If you're like UMass and you're sitting at the bottom of the MAC, I don't know how you're competitive in NIL either. He's had some interesting tweets today. I need to see, where's the other one? There was a wild one. Where'd it go? People think they're going to be able to recruit that market really well. I mean, obviously the MAC is not the long-term play here. They're going to go to a different conference. Just a matter of who and what and when and where. I don't think that this is a smart move. I don't think they're going to be competitive right off the bat. There's reasons why the Mountain West and the Pac-12 did not take the money deal that they're promoting. Yeah, there's no way that Sac State has the intention of staying in the MAC long term. They're hoping to get a Pac-12 Mountain West invite next. This type of deal SMU made to get into the SEC. That's an interesting take I've seen too. It's just they're not even a good FCS program. I don't really know what the fuck. This is like, I think, institutional suicide. And if this doesn't work, they're going to be in trouble financially. This president and AD are going to lose their jobs. It's going to be a mess. Like, this deal is just crazy to me. This is very interesting. This kind of dives into the point too of what I was going to get into of Brennan Marion. Did Brennan Marion jump the gun leaving Sac State to go to Colorado? So for those who are obviously know or don't know, Brennan Marion was the offense coordinator at UNLV under Barry Odom. He took the Sac State head coaching job back in before last season. He was only there for one season. He has a long history of bouncing around jobs. So this is the point that I was going to get to. He left Sac State back in December because the inability of them to deliver on a football FBS football membership for the 2026 season was a sticking point with him. So he decided to leave and bolt to go to Colorado, which KC did a great breakdown of what his contract is at Colorado. It's very interesting to see. He took a pay cut to go to Colorado. He was making $750,000 with a $2.5 million assistant pool to go at Sac State. He leaves to go to Colorado to do to take $400,000. It's a backloaded deal. $550 next season, and then 2027-28 is $1.1 million. It's on the higher end of OCs, but this is he has a Dion clause applied in his contract. The university will have no damage payment obligation to coach if coach is terminated by reason of head coach resignation in the first year of his deal. So if Dion were to leave, if Dion has to retire, if Dion gets fired, if he has another bad season, Colorado has no tie to pay him. The parties acknowledge that he was recruited to work with Dion, and if the head coach voluntarily leaves to go to another head coaching role for any reason other than his death, disability, or termination by the school, the offensive coordinator's employment with the university shall terminate 90 days after the head coach resigns or otherwise leaves his employment with the university or upon natural expiration of his contract. So he has no financial guarantee. If Dion's gone, Brennan Marion's gone. Dion is going into year 4. He has a losing record. He has a very bad record in conference play. He has one winning season. Has not won a bowl game. He had a Heisman winner that was boosted by ESPN. It's wild. Now that you see all the things turning with Sac State joining the MAC, did Brennan Marion jump too early? The buyout clause in that Colorado he signed to leave, he could have signed it's very interesting. It says right here, Sanders departs during the first year of Marion's contract, they owe him nothing. And the university can walk away cleanly. If in the second year the coach retires from coaching at any level, the university will not exercise its rights. University will not terminate the coach if he decides to retire. So he leaves in year 2, which would be not this year, which would be next year. They don't have to turn it, but if he leaves to take another coaching job, the school can fire him. No ties, no buyout. If Sanders retires from coaching entirely, Colorado cannot use this clause to terminate Marion, and his contract would continue under its normal terms. So it's very interesting when you look at it from that perspective of why did Brennan Marion give up Sac State? Where was the talks in December? From this article in December 4th. We're sitting at February 16th. What happened in basically a little bit over 2 months of, they did claim and they did hit it right. They tried to buy their way in the Pac-12. They tried to buy their way in the Mountain West. It's very interesting to see what's going to happen and where this goes. It's very interesting clauses. And Brennan Marion could have made a mistake. He could have been their first coach in Division I, and he's not going to be. And he may end up losing his job a year from now. If Dion gets fired, if Dion retires, if Dion has to resign, if he takes another job, some miracle he goes to the Browns to coach Shador, he wrote his own death sentence if this fails. If Marion resigns to take another NCAA position or NFL position during the term of his agreement, he owes the school 40% of his contract and then 12% of the base if it's in the second year. The new position is within the Big 12 or any conference Colorado is a member of, an additional 5%. So he has to pay. He has to pay if he wants out. Dion tied him to the school and tied him. It's insane. Like that is wild to see of what is going on in day and age of college football and how he tied himself in and oh, that's strange. If you guys can't see my comments, it's not on purpose. If you guys are trying to comment and it's not working, I don't know what's going on. Twitter's have some problems with the streaming platform I use. Not sure what's going on with that. I need to talk to them about it again. But other than that, our Rebel Daily Drive, as always, brought to you by Vegas Varsity. Your go-to for any UNLV gear. Use my code SSM10 to get 10% off any order. That 10% goes to help me and be able to travel to away games and cover the games as best as I can for everybody. Please repost the stream, repost the YouTube, share the YouTube with your friends. Tune in next time. I will stream Pastor's Presser tomorrow. I will be at the game Wednesday as well. Come say hello. I will do a pregame show Wednesday before the game. I haven't done that in a while, but we're going to do a pregame show 30 minutes before tip-off. No, we'll do it 45 minutes to tip-off. We'll end it probably about 15 minutes before tip. Drop your message me, contact me, engage. Love to go back and forth with you guys. If you guys are wondering, I don't have my personal account anymore. I got rid of it. So this is my media account's my only account. Like I always say, go Rebels, bring back K-Reb, and make sure you check out the Scarlet-Standard, the-Scarlet-Standard.com. Join our forums, bring up the chats, sign up for my newsletters, and continue to push love and support. And if you guys are interested, I've posted about it on Instagram. Do not post about it on Twitter. But if you're interested in sponsoring the Scarlet Standard, please reach out to me. I can make any agreement work. I would love to have a sponsor for pre-games, post-games, and to help me be on the road even more with the team, especially when football comes around. So it's a great opportunity to get in at the base and to get in on the ground floor. So as I always say, thank you for the love and support. Thank you for everything that you guys have done since April of 2025 and helping me grow my platform and become the voice that the fans want and need for UNLV athletics. And go Rebels.